At the Royal Night School, Idol Jiraha was called to the teacher's office, where he learned he had been officially expelled. The teacher explained bluntly that Idol's grades, classroom behavior, attendance, and overall performance were unacceptable for such a prestigious academy. When Idol asked if the teacher was essentially calling him worthless, he was told that with even a bit of determination, he might have turned out like his exceptional older brother. Idol was left speechless, but the teacher continued, making it clear that this failure wasn't the school's fault. When Idol defiantly asked if the teacher was just throwing insults to avoid responsibility, the teacher replied that there was no need to worry since Idol had always seen things clearly and never had the desire to improve. The teacher, seemingly amused, remarked that perhaps Idol still had some decency left in him before dismissing him completely, saying they didn't need someone worthless like him at their school. Idol said nothing more and left the room, unaffected, already thinking this was the end. He had once been a student at the Royal Night School and had graduated with distinction. His family, the Jirahas, had been knights for generations, so naturally he believed he would follow that same path. Yet here he was, questioning everything about how things had come to this. As he walked through the hallways, he imagined what others must be thinking about him now. He was the dropout, the expelled one, born into a prestigious military family but completely lacking in talent. To make matters worse, he was the younger brother of the genius Zawalis. In contrast, he had only brought shame to the knight's legacy. He wondered why he couldn't just disappear, not only from the school but from the world entirely. He could only walk in silence, glancing back one last time at the place that had cast him out. There was one more thing he had to do, tell his father the news. As expected, the head of the prestigious Jiraha house exploded in anger when he learned that Idol had been expelled. In his rage, he called him a useless piece of trash and informed Idol that his brother Zawalis was about to become the youngest knight captain in history. His other brother, Exer, had graduated from the night school as the top student and had already been appointed as a knight, which could be called decent progress. Compared to that, Idol had only betrayed his father's expectations. His father reminded him that both his brothers had been exceptional since childhood, surpassing even adults. Idol, on the other hand, could barely manage to keep up without falling behind. He couldn't even maintain decent grades at the night school, and now he had been expelled. Burying his face in his hands, Idol's father said he had had enough. Someone as incompetent as Idol needed to be disowned. He even remarked that he should have done it much earlier. He told Idol to consider all family ties severed and ordered him to leave and never come back. The man really walked into a conversation and walked out as an orphan. Idol stood frozen, accepting his fate. In truth, this response was exactly what he had expected. To his father, a son who couldn't become a knight had no value. Idol acknowledged his father's words and gave up the Jiraha surname. He thanked his father for everything, though deep down he felt a strange sense of relief at the start of a new life. As he left the room, he was immediately met by his younger sister, who asked where he was going. Idol didn't answer and simply said sorry as he left their home. He thought to himself that he wasn't worried about his sister and mother since big brother Exer would surely take care of them now. With both his home and school lost, Idol was left wondering where he should go next. As he wandered through the bustling streets, he decided to step into a nearby pub. Inside, a drunk old man called out to him, noticing how gloomy he looked. Idol was about to respond, but the man went on to say he couldn't help but laugh. Idol lightly noted that being laughed at like that would only make him more annoyed. As the old man continued laughing, Idol realized that he was actually a big shot from the Adventurers Guild. Not wanting to ruin the mood, Idol chose to play along. While walking around the pub, memories of his time at the night school came rushing back because of a certain trigger. He had given up on becoming a knight back then and had felt completely hopeless and out of control. Just then, as he passed by a group of boys, he accidentally brushed arms with one of them. One of the boys called out to him, but Idol didn't stop. Suddenly, the boy grabbed him by the collar, tauntingly asking if he had anything to say. He demanded an apology, but Idol stayed silent. Without warning, Idol punched him, shouting that it was the boy who came at him. The guy picked the wrong sad boy to mess with. The sudden fight caused a stir in the pub, but before things could escalate further, someone stepped in and told Idol to drop it. It was the drunk man from earlier. The old man placed a hand on Idol's arm, noting that he was quite the hot-blooded youngster. Meanwhile, Idol was stunned, realizing that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move his body. Just then, the old man insisted on taking care of Idol, much to the boy's annoyance. That night, the old man brought Idol to his home, where he asked for the young man's name, and Idol answered politely. The old man acknowledged his skills, though Idol didn't think much of them. Then the old man said that if Idol couldn't handle that kind of power, he should direct it elsewhere. He suggested becoming an adventurer, a suggestion that left Idol momentarily stunned. The adventure business, which Idol had initially pursued just to vent his frustration, turned out to suit him more than he expected. He threw himself into it completely, neglecting his night training in the process. His absences increased and his grades plummeted. Trying to lift Idol's spirits, the old man explained that his loud, explosive laughter was his way of reminding others not to be too discouraged. But Idol wasn't discouraged, at least not in the way people thought. Then the old man mentioned that the party he had temporarily joined the other day had specifically asked him to approach Idol. They wanted him to join their team, impressed by how well he handled himself. Idol was shocked to hear it. The old man burst into laughter, saying that surprisingly, there were a few nobles who actually became adventurers, some even rising to A rank. On the other hand, there were also those who ended up bowing their heads in shame, called back home by their fallen noble families. Though the offer sounded nice, Idol asked the old man to politely decline it. The old man was surprised, asking if Idol truly wanted to live as an adventurer. Idol explained that there was something else he wanted to try, and for that reason, he preferred to continue working alone a while longer. The old man asked if it was about the original magic Idol had been researching. Idol confirmed it, explaining that it was called the bond summoning technique, and he intended to start training to master it. Because of that, he couldn't participate in any party activities. The old man acknowledged that this was Idol's life to live as he chose, but he still wondered how Idol planned to make a living. Idol replied that he still had the reward money from the wyvern subjugation the other day, so he'd be fine. The old man was shocked, knowing that hunting a wyvern was something only B-rank parties and above typically did. Idol confirmed it, explaining that he had simply joined a B-rank party for the task. What, like it's hard. He seemed to have a talent for reading others and matching their pace, easily adapting to any party he joined. However, he didn't think it was much of a skill, especially compared to his genius older brothers. That was why he had to follow his own path. The old man understood but asked if Idol was planning to hole up in the mountains. Idol responded that he was heading to the world's strongest magical domain, a harsh frontier that people could barely set foot in. The Idionir Great Tree Sea. The Idionir Great Tree Sea was said to be larger than the entire country Idol lived in, though its full extent remained unknown. Powerful magical creatures unlike any found elsewhere roamed freely within it. It was recognized as the world's strongest magical domain, and the border between it and the outside world was often referred to as the end of the world. The old man screamed in concern, begging Idol to stop. He asked if Idol understood how many adventurers had entered the Idionir Great Tree Sea and never returned. He pleaded with Idol not to give up on himself, but Idol only replied that he was different and that he wasn't going to die. He knew full well that the Great Tree Sea was not to be taken lightly. A few days later, Idol arrived at the border town of Betrinus. The area bordering the Idionir Great Tree Sea was heavily fortified with a massive fortress, clearly marking how dangerous the place was. Beyond that wall lay the Great Tree Sea of Idionir. As Idol stood at its edge, he sighed and reminded himself of his goal, to complete the bond magic. Back when Idol first became an adventurer, he studied various types of magic, but in the end, all of it felt half-hearted. Around that time, a mysterious bard approached him. The bard said Idol had talent. He could do all that he wanted, but he could never reach the pinnacle of anything. It was as if he had been born under such a star. Offended, Idol asked if the bard was looking for a fight, but the bard didn't argue. Instead, he calmly said that there existed a secret art, something only Idol could master, an ancient lost art that no one else could perform. The bard then sat down across from Idol, telling him not to be so cautious. He explained that this secret art existed in a completely different dimension from the magic currently known in the world. He called it the bond summoning technique, an ancient lost magic he had personally named. Just then, Idol asked if this man expected him to pay for lessons or buy bitter old textbooks. However, the bard simply said that if Idol could show him results with this secret art, that would be more than enough. Idol remained suspicious, but at the time, he had nothing to devote himself to. For that reason, he shook the bard's hand in agreement. Days passed, and eventually Idol learned the basics of bond magic, but by the time he had completed his training, the bard had vanished. Now Idol stepped into the forest, reminding himself that he came here to practice bond magic. That was his purpose. As he moved forward, he began observing his surroundings carefully. He could sense that something was watching him. He turned toward the rustling sounds, threatening whatever was there to show itself. But instead of an enemy, what appeared was a slime peeking out from behind a tree with its large googly eyes. Both Idol and the slime were equally startled, and they shrieked in surprise at the same time. Idol hadn't expected to see a slime here, especially not in a place as harsh and wild as the Great Tree Sea. The slime was known as the most popular, lowest ranking, and weakest magical creature, a semi-transparent gel-like being that could be found almost anywhere. Despite its low rank, it was known for its high versatility. Then, without warning, the slime suddenly rushed toward Idol. He was shocked by how fast it was, but he was faster, managing to dodge the attack just in time. As the slime landed, it seemed to mutter something about making him fall. The day went on, and the two continued to fight relentlessly. By the end of it, Idol dropped to his knees, exhausted, claiming victory. This slime's strength was unlike anything he had encountered before. It made sense since this was the great tree sea of Idionir. After all, he stood up, looming over the creature. It was still alive, though barely. Its tired eyes looked up at him, mumbling incomprehensible sounds. Idol figured it was fine if it was still breathing since he hadn't delivered a finishing blow yet. At that moment, he decided to try the bond summoning technique on it. Chanting the spell, he began forming the bond. His magic intertwined with the slime's life force, connecting them on a deep level. Neither was superior, and they stood as equals, bound by a sincere pact. Afterward, Idol cast another spell to stabilize the forming magic pathway. He hoped to gain the slime's aid and officially form a contract. With that, the bond was sealed. Suddenly, the slime bounced with energy, letting out joyful noises. Idol smirked, knowing his magic had fully healed it. He then checked on the slime, wondering how it was feeling. If the spell worked, the slime would now be his friend, and no harm would ever come to it. The slime paused for a moment, seemingly thinking, then out of nowhere, it slammed itself into Idol's gut. Shocked by the sudden hit, Idol began to worry that the bond summoning technique had failed. But the slime continued to bounce around happily, as if overflowing with excitement. It wasn't hostile at all. If anything, it behaved like a playful dog. Realizing this, Idol suddenly stood up and shouted in joy. The spell had worked. The slime also celebrated, making strange but cheerful noises. Idol knelt down to meet its gaze and quietly asked it to take care of him from now on. The first stage was a success. In this form, the bond resembled a demon tamer's pact or summoning magic, but Idol recalled the bard's words that bond magic was an ancient secret technique, fundamentally different from the others. Traditional summoning spells called forth spirits, phantom beasts, or demons. However, bond summoning targeted something else entirely. Beings that shouldn't exist in this world, creatures from a lost world. At its core, the essence of bond summoning was about forging a true connection, starting with forming bonds with monsters. The bard once told Idol that the bond summoning technique, commonly known as bond magic, shouldn't exist in this world. It had the power to summon inanimate objects, and was the only known method of bringing things from the lost world into this one. In other words, summoning from another world could lead to the discovery of unknown minerals or strange, unfamiliar properties. Since it hadn't even been passed down as legend, it was clear that this wouldn't be something easily understood or mastered. The developer of the bond summoning technique must have taken that into consideration. A Yosa capable of summoning things that shouldn't exist in this world. Idol realized that this might refer to an entity, which surprised the bard because Idol had figured it out. That Yosa was the slime, his contracted monster, a being considered to be from beyond this world. Bond magic relied on the connection with a monster as the foundation to summon substances that didn't exist in this world. At that moment, Idol asked the slime to lend him some of its power. The slime agreed, and the bond summon began. Then something unexpected happened. Idol discovered he could summon a water pet bottle. He understood the word, water, but the rest of the words didn't make sense to him. The slime tried to explain, but its language was mere gibberish. A screen appeared asking if the item should be summoned. Though unsure, Idol agreed. Just then, a bottle appeared in his hand, startling him. It was cylindrical and crystal-like, with a texture unlike anything he'd ever felt. The slime continued to make noises, and eventually Idol understood what it wanted. He held the tip and twisted it. To his surprise, the top spun off, and he realized it was some sort of cap. He had never seen anything like it before. Water itself was familiar, but this water was completely clear with no scent at all. As he tasted it, his eyes widened in shock. It was cold and delicious. Amazed, Idol offered some to the slime. It jumped with joy, and he poured the water over it, instantly soothing the creature. At that moment, Idol realized just how precious water truly was. During his adventures, they would often choose base locations based on nearby water sources. If the water ran out, the quest would come to a halt. But now, as long as his magic held out, Idol could summon water anytime, removing that worry entirely. Still, he wondered if the pet water bottle would disappear once the water inside ran out. Then another thought came to him. If he could form contracts with more monsters and increase the types of bond summons available, he might be able to summon even more impressive things. With that goal in mind, he decided to challenge various monsters. Later that day, Idol ventured deeper into the forest. He had just defeated a massive snake, which confirmed that he and the slime made an excellent team. Confident, Idol attempted to form a bond with the snake. However, a screen appeared informing him that his summoning magic level was too low. At present, he could only form a contract with one monster. Realizing this, Idol understood that he needed to level up before forming more bonds. Determined, he set his sights on battling more monsters to gain experience. The slime, eager to help, bounced with excitement at the prospect of leveling up together. Meanwhile, at the Royal Night School, Idol's teacher, Zarajesta, boldly announced that he had good news. Idol Jiraha had been expelled. He declared that Idol had been deemed unfit for the prestigious school due to his lack of talent and ambition. Though this news was somewhat late, he felt it necessary to inform everyone. In his view, the presence of a dropout must have been unpleasant to witness. He believed it was a teacher's duty to create the best possible environment for students, and under his guidance, any student could grow into a splendid knight. At that moment, Prince Mishwada, clearly uninterested, responded coldly. He already knew everything the old man was yapping about. He was aware of all his foolish actions. It had been 5 days since Idol's departure, and it was more than enough time for the information to spread. At that point, even the castle rats knew the tea. Zarajesta stammered, unable to respond properly in front of the prince, who was not only the top student at the school but also the 4th prince of the kingdom, the most elite among elites. Zarajesta couldn't understand why someone of his status would care about a lowly student like Idol. Trying to diffuse the tension, he laughed and pretended it was expected from the prince, saying it was no surprise that even trash could catch his eye. He went on to flatter him, declaring that the nation's future was already in good hands and that he was honored to serve under such a remarkable prince. However, the prince remained unmoved. Mishwada looked at him with disgust, stating how unfortunate it was to be assigned such an incompetent teacher. Pops just got clocked. Insulted, Zarajesta called the prince rude, despite his royal status. He reminded him that he was currently just a student at the night school. He warned that defying a teacher could negatively impact his grades, yet Prince Mishwada remained firm. To him, there was nothing wrong with calling incompetence what it was. He believed that failing to recognize Idol's hidden talent was the clearest proof of Zarajesta's own lack of skill. Furious, Zarajesta cursed under his breath. In his eyes, Idol was nothing more than a loater student, unmotivated and holding the lowest grades. No one could compare the school's top talents to someone like Idol. Just then, Prince Mishwada revealed something unexpected. He had been watching Idol for a long time. He knew of the fame, the title, the 13th Golden Generation, and believed that Idol was the one who truly deserved to be its golden example. Though he had pretended to be a weak student, he possessed incredible talent. From the 1st to the 3rd year, he was always second, right behind the prince himself. But from the 4th year onward, he had lost all motivation. The prince admitted he didn't know what caused the change, but he hoped to help Idol recover and become a splendid knight once more. When he asked Zarajesta if he had any idea why he wanted to help Idol, the old man was left speechless. Finally, Prince Mishwada revealed his reasons. He was the 4th prince of the country, and seeking out exceptional talent for the good of the nation was only natural. Prince Mishwada firmly believed that Idol was, without a doubt, the one who could become the strongest knight to support the country. And yet, Zarajesta had tried to expel him. To the prince, the incompetent always stood in the way of others. Zarajesta was stunned, unable to respond. Eventually, he managed to speak, asking if perhaps the prince was overestimating Idol. He admitted he might not know Idol's past performance, but insisted that his current record was undeniably the worst. After all, everything came down to visible evaluations. The prince wasn't impressed with what he said. To him, being able to grasp what was unseen was a mark of true competence. He then asked Zarajesta if he even knew why Idol had been skipping class or where he went during that time. Confused, the teacher had no answer. That's when the prince revealed the truth. Idol had been involved with the Adventurers Guild. He was being evaluated as a B-rank adventurer unofficially. Zarajesta scoffed, thinking Idol was a fool for doing such a thing, but the achievements were real. For an investigator had confirmed it just the other day, Idol had reportedly succeeded in defeating a wyvern with his party. Zarajesta was in disbelief. He couldn't think of many in the capital's Knight Brigade who could pull that off. Just then, Prince Mishwada pointed out how much the old man talked despite knowing so little. Zarajesta stammered while the prince continued, saying that Idol's only flaw was that he had lost faith in himself. He had given up on the path of knighthood, but if Idol were truly a knight meant to serve the country, then the right to fail him belonged to the country itself, meaning that he, a member of the royal family, could pass that judgment. Idol had already petitioned the king to become Prince Mishwada's direct knight after graduation, regardless of grades. The prince had intended to train him personally. Zarajesta could hardly believe the king had agreed, but then the prince looked at him with fury in his eyes, declaring that the teacher's foolish actions had ruined everything. Now the prince declared that he would charge Zarajesta with treason for obstructing the will of the royal family. He told the man that his time as a teacher at the night school was over. Starting next month, Zarajesta would be nothing more than a commoner soldier stationed at a remote fortress. Desperate, Zarajesta collapsed to the floor. He begged, saying he had spent his entire life building his career, only to be reduced to guarding some remote land. Bro fumbled so bad he became an NPC. However, the prince simply smirked. He thought to himself that he had no intention of abandoning Idol. He would make sure that his strength served the nation. Idol continued his mission in the Idionir Great Tree Sea. During his time there, he deepened his bond with the slime, teaching it tricks. At first glance, it might have looked like they were just playing around, but this was also a way to strengthen their friendship level. He could eventually form a bond summon with the slime by doing so. Soon after, Idol used the bond summoning technique. Their bond had reached level 6, granting them the ability to summon water attributes. The summoning technique had advanced significantly too. Now he could summon water directly anytime and anywhere he needed it. He realized that he was in much better condition than he had ever imagined. From musty adventurer to minty fresh legend, he was getting used to life in the Great Tree Sea. Still, Idol admitted that the bond summoning technique had its limitations. However, due to the unique nature of the forest, the technique's level had increased. Not only that, the number of monsters he could contract with had also grown. He now had the ability to form new bonds with other creatures. Without hesitation, he attempted to create a new contract, but to his surprise, a system notification appeared reporting an error. Certain conditions hadn't been met. It seemed that monster contracts weren't just about casting the spell. The monsters also had to mentally accept him. Without that mutual recognition, no bond could be formed, no matter how much he desired it. He had initially tried to defeat the slime before bonding with it, assuming that was the standard method used by monster tamers. However, bond summoning was clearly an entirely different process. Idol played with the slime again, realizing just how lucky he was to have formed a bond with it. In that moment, he made a decision. Rather than overthinking things, he would take action and try different approaches. He held the slime to his face, telling it his plan. Then suddenly, the slime became alert. It stiffened, as if trying to warn him of incoming danger. Idol looked around, confused, and asked if there were enemies nearby. Scanning his surroundings, Idol was shocked to see a group of goblins lurking nearby. One goblin wouldn't have been a problem, but this was a group. He tried to sneak away quietly, but a misstep made just enough noise to draw their attention. They noticed him, making Idol freeze on the spot. It was always the same with these humanoid monsters. Goblins were wicked, vile, and arrogant. They didn't defend territory. They invaded human settlements, destroyed fields, and attacked livestock. Even worse, they sometimes targeted human children, abducting them for cruel entertainment before eventually killing them. Goblins were the type of monster that had to be eliminated on sight. Idol hadn't expected to find them living in the Idionir Great Tree Sea as well. If he had been noticed, he had no choice but to act. Idol unsheathed his sword, fully aware that goblins weren't particularly strong on their own. However, when gathered in a group, their coordination could be shockingly effective. Then, out of nowhere, Idol realized he had been completely surrounded. It was just him and the slime standing alone against the entire horde. A desperate crisis. The goblins bared their razor-sharp teeth and sinister grins, confident that they had cornered their prey. However, Idol had no intention of backing down. The goblins might have seen them as weak, but they were wrong. He turned to the slime, relying on their bond. In response, the slime leaped into the air, allowing Idol to perform the bond summoning technique. From it, they produced a strange liquid called lotion and dumped it all over the goblins. At first, the goblins were merely confused by the slippery substance, but they quickly realized it wasn't dangerous. However, just as they prepared to strike again, they lost their footing and slipped. That's when Idol understood that the liquid scattered earlier by the slime wasn't ordinary water. Thanks to the increased level of the technique, it was now possible to summon lotion from another world. Sticky and slick, it wasn't meant for drinking. Wait till he realizes what else it's good for. It clung to the skin, making it difficult to stand or move. It couldn't be wiped off with a simple gesture. Even though the goblins were smart enough to gather in groups, they lacked the caution to avoid such traps. Seeing his chance, Idol moved fast. He grabbed a sharp piece of wood and used it as a makeshift spear. Without hesitation, he struck, impaling goblins one after another until half the horde had been wiped out. One of the goblins appeared to beg for its life, letting out desperate, unintelligible sounds. But Idol only smirked, asking if it were asking to be spared. Then, without mercy, he told the goblin that its begging was pointless. He knew the iron rule when it came to goblins: if encountered, they must be eliminated without exception. Just then, the slime alerted him that danger was looming. Idol asked what was wrong, then to his shock, he noticed that a goblin was attacking from a blind spot. The goblin landed in front of him, distracting him while Idol was preoccupied. The rest of the horde quickly retreated. Strangely, the lone goblin showed no fear. It simply sat there as if waiting to be killed. Quickly, Idol noticed that the goblin's companions had abandoned it. Goblins were known for being wicked. They formed groups, but it was to gain the upper hand against their enemies and not out of camaraderie. To Idol's confusion, this goblin came to rescue its companions even when it was in a tight spot. That moment made Idol pause, realizing that maybe this goblin had the capacity to form bonds. He decided to use the bond summoning technique on it, and to his shock, the goblin began to speak. The goblin questioned why Idol didn't finish her off. Meanwhile, Idol could hardly believe what he was hearing. It had to be the effect of the technique. Suddenly, the goblin sensed something was wrong. She realized she could understand human speech and panicked, confused about what was happening to her. The goblin wondered if this was some kind of domination magic. She lamented that a proud goblin like her had fallen so far, reduced to being a mere familiar. Idol, meanwhile, questioned if goblins even had pride. The goblin was deeply offended and insisted they did. Then Idol tried another summon. Now that he had a bond with the goblin, this time he was able to obtain a combat knife. Upon confirming the summon, the knife appeared, simple in design. The goblin was mesmerized by the glint of its silver blade. She marveled at how beautiful it looked, even reflecting his image. Testing it on a tree branch, she was stunned by how sharp it was. Raising the knife, she imagined how satisfying it would be to see a deep, gushing wound. The slime watched the goblin with concern while Idol began to think it was probably a bad idea to let an idiot wield such a weapon. Without hesitation, he took the knife back. The goblin threw a tantrum, but Idol calmly stated he would return it only when necessary. That alone was enough to excite the goblin. She eagerly called him boss and asked if he truly meant it. Overjoyed, she even vowed to annihilate all humans and monsters alike. Idol gave a small smile, realizing just how overly confident this creature really was. As the days went on, Idol eventually allowed the goblin to use the knife as they continued leveling up. They sat down to share a meal together. However, the goblin began recounting disturbing details from their recent battles. She spoke with great enthusiasm about the sharpness of their weapons, describing in vivid detail how enemy arteries had ruptured and blood had spurted everywhere. Annoyed by the graphic nature of her report, Idol cut her off, saying he had heard quite enough. With their growing numbers, the battle in the Idonir Great Tree Sea had made significant progress. Their strategy was well coordinated, with Idol and the slime clearing out blind spots while the goblin exploited openings like a skilled assassin. Their levels continued to rise steadily, and Idol began to feel ready to bond with a new beast. Just then, the goblin claimed she had an excellent idea. She pointed ahead to a hill-like area that was currently claimed by a powerful monster. Her suggestion was to defeat this monster and make it one of Idol's underlings. When Idol asked if the opponent was truly strong, the goblin reassured him that they could definitely take it down together. Idol hesitated, unsure if her intelligence was trustworthy. Eventually, he decided to check it out, but they would only fight if they had a good chance of winning. Later that day, they reached their destination. Upon arrival, Idol was absolutely stunned to discover that the enemy the goblin had mentioned was a gigantic golem. He immediately recognized the immense danger they were facing. Golems were far more threatening than the wyvern he had defeated before. Its body was as hard as minerals, human-shaped, massive, and surprisingly agile. It was already a formidable opponent and far more intelligent than a mere beast. Panic immediately set in. They turned and ran as Idol cursed the goblin for leading them into such a dire situation. The goblin, flustered, claimed she genuinely thought they could handle it. Idol knew there was absolutely no way they could defeat that thing, let alone make it an ally. He immediately ordered a retreat so they could regroup and devise a new plan. The goblin tried to keep up, saying she understood the gravity of their situation. They managed to put some distance between themselves and the golem. Then, to Idol's surprise, the golem stopped moving. He began to wonder if it would stop chasing them if they simply left the hill. That hope quickly vanished as the golem grabbed a massive tree trunk and prepared to launch it straight at them. They were absolutely done for. The golem hurled the massive tree trunk toward them, making them scream in panic. Fortunately, they managed to dodge just in time. Idol quickly checked to see if everyone was okay, and the goblin confirmed she was fine. To their horror, they suddenly noticed that the slime wasn't with them. It had been left behind, dangerously close to the golem itself. The slime was completely exhausted and could no longer move. If Idol and the goblin didn't act fast, the golem would crush the slime underfoot. Without hesitation, Idol rushed back toward the slime. The goblin warned him that he might get crushed too, but Idol didn't back down. He argued that he had spent so much time with the slime that abandoning it was never an option. He questioned what kind of future awaited someone who would leave a friend behind just to survive. And so Idol ran with everything he had, reaching out desperately. At the last possible moment, he managed to grab the slime and pull it out of harm's way. However, the danger was far from over. The golem still loomed above them, ready to strike. At that moment, Idol realized there was no longer any escape route. With only a 50-50th chance of success, he decided to take the risk and used his bond summoning technique on the golem. To his complete surprise, the golem suddenly stopped moving. Idol took the opportunity to flee while he still could, but something stopped him mid-track. Something strange was happening. The golem began to emit a glowing light, and from within it, a girl appeared. The girl thanked Idol for registering her, then introduced herself as V4T1CX2, a fully situational response type automation model. She stated that serving her master was the greatest joy of an automation, and she hoped Idol would take good care of her. Idol was stunned, wondering if the girl was actually the core of the golem. However, the girl clarified that the golem belonged to her. She referred to it as a combat enhancement armor model type giant. Her explanation only left Idol more confused, unable to grasp half of what she was saying. She continued, mentioning that the golem had already operated for over 18,016 continuous hours. Still baffled, Idol turned to his party to ask if anyone else understood what she was talking about. The girl then said that due to aging and deterioration, the golem's performance had dropped to less than half of its original capacity. In that state, it would be difficult to properly serve her master. While he didn't fully understand everything, Idol did notice that the golem's outer body looked quite old and creaky. Just then, Idol opened his screen, which caught the girl's attention. She asked what it was, and Idol replied that he was thinking of using the bond they had just formed. To his surprise, the screen showed several summonable items now available. Among them were the Enhanced Armor type, the Giant Enhanced Armor type, and the Eagle Enhanced Armor type. The Enhanced Armor type giant caught his attention. He selected it, and the armor automatically applied itself to the golem, renewing its appearance and restoring it to a brand new state. The girl was amazed by her master's decision, marveling that they could now bring out the golem's maximum specifications. Idol, now a bit more composed, admitted that he had a few questions to clear up. He wondered aloud if the girl was around 20 years old, observing the features of her body. The boy clearly knew his priorities. Before she could respond, he looked away, distracted and confused about who she really was. More specifically, he wondered why she had been inside the golem. The girl asked why he turned away, but Idol didn't answer. He knew it wouldn't be appropriate to admit that her outfit was quite revealing. She then explained that she was an automation designed to mimic the female human body. About 2,000 years ago, this land was home to a vast ancient civilization, and she was a robot created by that civilization. She was essentially a doll that could think and act on her own. Her mission had been to guard an important facility on this hill. Even after the civilization fell and the facility was reclaimed by the earth, she continued to protect the land. But now she had found a new reason to exist. She would dedicate all her functions to serving Idol. Startled by how close she suddenly was, Idol could only hope that she'd take good care of him too. At that moment, he realized that when he had extended his hand to form the contract, perhaps he had felt her desire to serve. Just then, the girl turned serious and made a request. She wanted a name. Idol was surprised, and the girl explained that her model number was only her machine's designation. What she desired was a personal name, one she could carry as the automation who served her master. Idol tried to come up with a good name. Since the girl was technically a golem, he wanted to use that as the base but with a cuter twist. Eventually, he decided on the name Goleen. Goleen smiled and gratefully accepted it, saying it was a wonderful name. Suddenly, the goblin got angry, reminding Goleen that she was her senior. She furiously demanded to know why Idol was only naming newcomers, claiming it was unfair favoritism. Even the slime seemed to agree, muttering strange sounds only it could understand. Idol was unimpressed by their reaction, but he admitted they were just as unique and irreplaceable as Goleen. So he decided to give them names as well, saying it wasn't too late. The goblin and the slime were visibly excited. Idol turned to the slime first and named it Slappy, inspired by the peculiar noises it made. Slappy's eyes sparkled as it uttered unintelligible sounds, clearly thrilled. Idol was glad the name made it happy. Next, he turned to the goblin and named her Goblin. Though Goblin was surprised that Idol had chosen a name so quickly, she thought it was perfect. To her, the lack of hesitation meant the name was truly fitting. And so it was done. The slime was named Slappy, the goblin was Goblin, and the golem was Goleen. It had taken him months to brainstorm those names. With the addition of these three companions, Idol's progress in mastering the bond summoning technique rapidly advanced. Then came a surprise. The screen informed him that the rank of his bond summoning technique had been upgraded. He was confused about why the rank increased but not the level. Goleen speculated that it was due to the act of naming them. Idol's technique depended on the strength of the bond with the contractor, which was a rare method. The stronger the bond, the more power it could exert in the world. Idol was shocked as he realized that naming them had deepened their bond. At that moment, the screen announced that composite bond summoning was now possible. Idol tested it immediately, and the resulting summon was a chainsaw. Goleen explained that it was a tool used for cutting trees. When activated, the chain would rotate its blade. Before Idol tried it out, Goleen advised him to insert it slowly. That's what she said? Idol wasted no time and turned on the chainsaw, using it to cut down a tree successfully. Goblin was amazed and eagerly asked if she could try as well. Idol agreed but warned her to be careful. Filled with excitement, Goblin began chopping trees at full speed. Idol, watching this unfold, questioned what the goblin's goal even was. At that moment, Goblin suggested they build a house, and Idol fully supported the idea. Using the wood Goblin had chopped, he built a log house in no time. When it was finished, Goblin jumped for joy and said it was fun seeing it all come together. Idol felt a sense of accomplishment. Settling down in the forest would allow him to deepen his bond summoning technique even further. Goblin praised Idol, saying he was perfect in combat, magic, and knowledge. However, Idol remained humble, mentioning that he had already built a log house during a previous quest. Even so, he was exhausted. To recover, he instructed Slappy to perform a bond summon for water. Cold water suddenly sprinkled all over Idol's body, instantly refreshing him. Then he noticed Goblin giving him a strange look. She questioned his actions, and Idol explained that he was sweating, so he decided to take a water bath. He quickly apologized, realizing he had undressed in front of a woman. Goblin didn't just have an issue with that, she had concerns about his entire approach. Idol admitted she had a point. He figured if he had kept his clothes on, it could have counted as doing laundry, like hitting two birds with one stone. Goblin made it clear that this wasn't the case at all. She confronted him politely, and explained that his approach was not about cultural cleanliness. Cleanliness wasn't just about the person, it was about the surroundings too. Idol didn't quite get it at first, but Goblin insisted they needed to build a proper bath. He argued that it would be too much work. They need to boil water every time and gather firewood. But Goblin calmly reassured him that she already had a plan. Soon after, Goblin began constructing the bath. First, she dug a wide, deep hole in the ground. With her golem armor on, the excavation was completed in no time. Idol asked if it was meant to hold water, worried it would just seep into the ground. However, Goblin told him not to worry. She then called Goblin and instructed her to take some stones and pack them all over the hole like a cover. After that, she had Slappy pour a thick, drippy substance over the stones. This substance was cement. Once it hardened, it would be as tough as rock, durable even if it were hit. This was a result of her and Slappy's combined bond summoning ability. Just then, she had Slappy repeat the process for the other side of the hole. Idol was impressed but slightly uneasy at the idea that they might have tested their combined summon on him without his consent. Once everything was in place, they had to wait for the cement to dry, a process that took a long time. Eventually, when the cement had set, Slappy filled the bath with water. Idol wanted it to be hot, so Goblin used a mana-based heat source to warm it up. As steam rose from the water, Idol was speechless. Goblin happily gestured for him to enter, unaware that the water was literally boiling. After a while, Idol settled into the bath. He noted that Goblin seemed to have some inconsistencies in her awareness. It took time to adjust the temperature, but eventually the water was just right. The view from the bath was peaceful, surrounded by greenery, and being outdoors made it feel even better. Then, to his shock, a voice commented on how honored they were that the bath met his standards. It was Goblin, now soaking in the bath with him, completely naked. It was about to get steamy, folks. Pun intended. Goblin called upon Idol, stating that a private bath might be lonely, so she had come to join him. She believed it was an automation's duty to attend to their master. Meanwhile, Idol panicked upon realizing she had no clothes on. Goblin explained that she had removed them, as bathing while dressed would violate common sense. Idol was stunned by her logic, thinking this was exactly the kind of situation that required common sense. He questioned whether automations could even remove their clothes. Goblin clarified that she was an all-situations response automation designed to perform a wide range of duties. Idol was confused by what she meant by duty, and most of all, what taking off her clothes and being naked had to do with anything. Goblin went on to explain that female-type automations were equipped with functions meant to satisfy pleasure-based desires. For that reason, their structure was modeled after an adult human female, accurate down to the smallest detail. Idol completely freaked out. To make things worse, Goblin stood up in the bath, fully exposing herself. She invited Idol to see those details for himself. She hit him with the open house special. Horrified, he pushed her back into the water, insisting that he already believed her. There was no reason to doubt her explanation. Goblin was touched by his reaction, expressing genuine happiness that her master trusted her so much. After 2,000 years, she never imagined meeting someone so kind. Meanwhile, Idol couldn't understand why his response had moved her so deeply. Just then, Goblin leaned in closer, gently reminding him that her service functions were available at any time. As Idol questioned his own rationality, Goblin and Slappy suddenly appeared, asking what he was doing. Idol tried to explain himself but only stuttered, which made him look even more suspicious. Meanwhile, a pack of wolves gathered near the house, watching Idol and the others from a distance. One of the wolves reported that the giant on the hill had vanished. Now was the time to take what they sought. That superior land was truly worthy of being under their control. Another wolf mentioned that during reconnaissance, someone had already infiltrated the hill. A third added that Idol and his companions were showing signs of building homes and settling in. The pack leader grew furious, insisting that it didn't matter if there were inhabitants. They would simply be driven out. The weak would be eliminated. That was the law of the Great Tree. Back in the bath, Idol desperately tried to explain that everything was a misunderstanding. He claimed Golin had just shown up and was troubled. Goblin and Slappy didn't look convinced, and Goblin pointed out that he had even been grinning earlier. As they argued, Golin suddenly stood up, her demeanor turning serious. She warned Idol to be on guard, as something was heading their way. She had detected multiple hostile signatures and insisted that they prepare for a counterattack. Idol was startled by the news, while Goblin seemed excited because it had been a while since she'd fought. The group quickly dressed and got ready. Moments later, a pack of large, sturdy wolves appeared. Their leader stepped forward, declaring that the giants had finally disappeared. She introduced herself as Urshiva, pack leader of the Jail Wolf tribe. Idol was surprised that the wolves could speak the human language, which only meant they were an intelligent species. He then asked what had brought them there, and more importantly, why they came in such numbers. With a smirk, he remarked that there was no food around, or perhaps they saw him as the food. Urshiva dismissed the idea of eating a human, stating they didn't come for Idol but for the hill. This land had long been desired by many races. Since ancient times, the giants had claimed it and never left, making it unreachable. But now that the giants were gone, it was only natural to take the land if no one owned it. She really went with finders keepers. Urshiva claimed that the Jail Wolf tribe had been the first to detect the giants' disappearance, and the qualifications for a new ruler were in place. Just then, Golin quickly stepped forward, stating that the rightful owner of the land had already been decided. It was none other than her master. She declared that a mere canine daring to intrude on her master's domain was outrageous. With a stern warning, she told Urshiva to leave immediately and that she would not repeat herself. However, Urshiva remained defiant, saying that a weak human claiming territory was laughable. If that were the case, she would crush their heads and take their lives along with the land. Hearing this, Golin turned to Idol, asking for permission to fight. Idol gave the signal, and he equipped the golem with the enhanced armor-type giant. Golin warned the wolves that dying in arrogance was foolish. Even a coward who lived would be wiser. Now she would make them understand. The golem appeared in its full glory, shocking Urshiva. Without delay, Golin unleashed her power, striking down the wolves in one swift move. She then grabbed Urshiva and handed her over to Idol, stating that judgment should come from her master. Just then, Urshiva fearlessly demanded to be killed. Proud wolves never lived to suffer shame after defeat in battle. They were meant to fall gloriously and leave behind the pride of the wolf for future generations. Meanwhile, Idol found this to be impossible. The other wolves were covered in wounds, yet not a single one attempted to run away. It was a troublesome situation because, unlike usual, his opponent was a sentient being. Just then, an idea struck him. Idol suggested forming a contract with Urshiva. If he turned her into a bond-summoned beast, she could become his companion. It was a way to ensure safety without killing the enemy. Golin immediately interrupted, questioning whether it was really so easy to grant someone the honor of following her master. Urshiva, on the other hand, was confused by whatever Golin was talking about. Idol clarified that he would become Urshiva's new master. The idea baffled her, thinking that a weak-looking human couldn't possibly be under the command of a giant. However, Idol told her that there was no need to put it that way. Just then, he simply proceeded to form the bond. In an instant, Urshiva transformed. Her body shifted into a demi-human form, stunning Idol and the others who witnessed it. A wolf had just literally turned into a beautiful human. Idol asked why Urshiva had taken on a human form. She replied that in order to serve her master more deeply, she had adopted a similar appearance. Idol had never heard of such a thing. With Golin residing inside the golem, he was able to accept her, but he couldn't understand why the proud wolf had transformed into a beautiful girl. Urshiva smiled, declaring that she represented the Urshiva wolf tribe and would now serve him wholeheartedly. She began fangirling over Idol, admiring him as a mighty warrior who had defeated and subjugated giants. By joining under his protection, her clan would surely be safe. Idol tried to clarify that he hadn't actually defeated the giant, but Urshiva seemed too lost in admiration to listen. And just like that, a new companion had joined Idol's team. The next day, Idol was petting one of the wolves, rubbing its belly. The wolf was so pleased it looked like it wanted to be petted forever. Suddenly, Urshiva loomed over, demanding that her belly be petted too, just like her subordinates. Idol was completely caught off guard and insisted that touching her in that form was forbidden. Just then, Golin interrupted, warning that their master was in trouble. She complained that the beasts were absolutely relentless, and now they even seemed to be staying for good. As Urshiva cozied up to Idol, he agreed that Golin had a point. In fact, the beasts were increasing in number all at once. At that moment, Idol noticed Slappy playing with the wolves, using water to entertain them. It warmed his heart to see the slime getting along so well with them. Urshiva was impressed by the slime's ability to produce water under Idol's command. She became even more convinced that Idol was the one worthy of becoming the ruler of the forest. To her, the wolves who pledged loyalty to a noble were the true victors. Golin, on the other hand, questioned what nonsense the newcomer was rambling about. Idol was equally confused. He didn't understand why Urshiva kept calling him a king. He began to wonder if territorial disputes in the Great Tree were really that intense. Hearing this, Urshiva stood up and began to explain. The Great Forest was home to some truly powerful foes. There were the Great Sea tribes, orcs, and goblins. The vermin hordes were among the lesser tribes. Of course, there was the Jail Wolf tribe. Among them all, the Demon Beast tribe stood as the main forces. Suddenly, Urshiva turned serious, suspecting that the other tribes might already have their eyes on this territory. And so she warned Idol to remain vigilant. Meanwhile, Goblin was fuming at Urshiva. She felt that this newcomer was acting all high and mighty. If her goal was to make the master stronger, then they should form contracts with all the wolves. However, Urshiva protested, explaining that this wasn't allowed. Only the leader of the group had the privilege of forming a direct bond with the Lord, and she couldn't allow her subordinates to do what Goblin suggested. Goblin suddenly smirked, pointing out that she also had a contract with Idol, which made them equals. Urshiva was baffled that a goblin like her would think that way. Idol then stepped in, saying that having more contracts didn't necessarily mean someone was stronger. Goblin interrupted, saying that there was something more important she wanted to test. She wanted to know what could be summoned through Idol's bond with the dog. She claimed no one could summon anything as useful as she could. Urshiva's blood boiled at that statement, demanding she explain what she meant. Idol chuckled nervously, unsure how to calm the two down. To break the tension, he suddenly used bond summoning, instantly silencing them both. To everyone's surprise, he had summoned dog food. Idol stared at the brown orbs in confusion, not understanding what they were. Urshiva and Goblin were even more puzzled, asking what the item was. Without hesitation, Urshiva and the wolves dove in, devouring the dog food. Idol was stunned that they were actually eating it. He hadn't even realized it was food. Curious, he considered trying it himself, but Golin quickly warned him that doing so would compromise his dignity. Urshiva turned to him, praising the dog food. Not just the land and water, she said, but even the way he provided so much delicious food. She claimed the Jail Wolf tribe would gladly fight to the death for him. Idol smiled, thinking that from their perspective, this was paradise. And if that was the case, other magical beasts might be drawn to him as well. Just then, a fierce tiger approached the group with its companions. It introduced itself as part of the fierce tiger tribe. The leader stepped forward and gave her name as Nyafu. She announced that cats loved high and warm places and demanded that Idol hand over the land. However, Idol didn't hesitate. He signaled Golin, and Golin swiftly activated her powers, obliterating the tiger tribe on the spot. Meanwhile, at the Jeraha family estate, Idol's father declared that they were the source of a capable bloodline. He had heard of the many accomplishments of his sons, and because of that, he believed the future of the royal capital's knights would likely be led by the two brothers. That said, he had a request. However, before he proceeded, he noticed that the brothers were unamused and asked what was wrong. Exer spoke up, saying he had a question. He wanted to know if their father truly disowned Idol. Without hesitation, their father confirmed it, saying it was too late to tell them right when it happened. Idol, he claimed, was a burden to the Jeraha family, and so he severed ties with him for good. On the bright side, the rest of the family was still together. Smiling, he invited the brothers to join him for dinner. However, Exer was furious. He cursed at the old man, telling him not to mess with him. Their father was stunned, clearly not expecting that kind of reaction. Zara couldn't believe he had disowned his own son. Their father tried to justify that compared to Zara and Exer, Idol was nothing. Thanks to the brothers' achievements, he had gained status and popularity in social circles. Idol, despite being his child, was just a useless ingrate. Exer snapped, calling him a pig-headed fool. He claimed that Idol would eventually surpass him, even if it took time. Their father demanded to know how he could speak to his own father like that, but Exer didn't back down. He asked if their father even knew what class Idol belonged to. Then he answered himself. It was the golden 13th generation. Surrounded by powerful classmates, and being expected to always be first was harsh for Idol. Zara chimed in, adding that Exer's top rank only made their pig of a father more arrogant. Zara continued, saying he couldn't read his father's mind. When compared to someone as exceptional as Zara, even if Idol's results surpassed his best efforts, like his elder brother, he was expected to always be number one. That must have made things unbearable for someone like Idol. He was shunned from a young age, beaten, and always publicly humiliated by constant comparisons to his brothers. But despite that, Idol never gave up. Exer admitted he regretted not recognizing that effort sooner. He smirked bitterly at their father, asking if he truly thought he was just a clueless child. Then Exer revealed something. At a recent gathering, he met a gentleman around his father's age. That man told him about his father's student days, how he barely ranked in the top 40. That's why he could so easily demand excellence now. He never knew what it was like to be crushed by expectations. That's got to burn. Exer then made his decision. If Idol was disowned, then he too would sever ties with their father. All he wanted was to be free from the pressure. Their father couldn't believe what he was hearing, so he reminded Exer that he was his proud son. Just then, Exer turned to Zara and asked if he had any objections. Zara, however, was indifferent. He had only come because he thought their mother had summoned him. He didn't expect a confrontation. To him, matters like these were trivial and unrelated to his mission. Then, without a word, he left the room. Their father called after him, but Zara didn't look back. Meanwhile, Exer remained lost in thought, wondering where Idol was. Wherever he was, he wouldn't let him stay alone. Meanwhile, in the Idonir Great Tree Sea, Idol noticed that various races were preparing to claim the land for themselves. To prevent conflict, he needed to form contracts with them, just like he did with the Jailwolf tribe. At the same time, the wolves and tigers had started bickering. Urshiva insisted that the Jailwolf tribe had pledged loyalty to Idol, but Nyafu, now in her demi-human form, argued that usefulness was more important. She claimed that the tiger tribe was far superior to any dog-like race. Observing the two, Idol realized that discord had already begun to take root. Fortunately, he had a way to deal with it. He called Nyafu forward and summoned a treat through their bond. Liquid snacks for cats. Nyafu eagerly opened her mouth to receive her reward. Overwhelmed by how delicious it was, she was completely won over. This would go south if we weren't seeing pictures. Urshiva scoffed, finding it pathetic that someone could be swayed by food. It seemed cats like her lacked even a shred of pride, but then Idol turned to Urshiva with a smile. He had something for her as well. Liquid snacks for dogs. He handed it to her, but Urshiva hesitated, worried that eating it would make her look like a cat. Still, Idol calmed everyone down, urging them not to fight. Just then, Golin stepped in, reminding Idol to stop wasting time playing with beasts and focus on their next course of action. Idol informed the girls that he would be returning to town, leaving them all shocked and pleading for him to stay. They wanted to be together forever. Frustrated, Idol insisted that he would return once everything was sorted. Urshiva offered to go with him, promising to protect him from any danger. Just then, Idol explained that the bond summoning technique had been tested to some extent. There were 5 summoning beasts, and if they continued their research, there were still many things they lacked to live there comfortably. Thanks to Urshiva and Nyafu, their combat strength would increase. However, the things they could summon through the contract were nothing more than toys. The log house was an improvement over the wilderness, but for long-term living, they would need furniture. That's why Idol was counting on the girls to watch over the place while he was gone. Hearing this made the girls panic, but they had no choice. In the end, Urshiva agreed to take care of the place while Idol was away. She then proposed that someone should take charge in his absence, to which Idol agreed. Urshiva insisted that she should be the one to take on that leadership role. Nyafu, not to be left out, chimed in saying that she too wanted to volunteer. As the leader of the royal tiger tribe, she claimed she was the most suitable. Urshiva was furious, reminding Nyafu that as a feline creature, she would prioritize herself over the group. She argued that wolves, in contrast, unite to hunt and survive, maintaining strict rules and a clear hierarchy to lead the pack. Nyafu dismissed Urshiva's remarks, calling her annoying, and insisted that she would lead the group in a more relaxed and laid-back manner. Idol grew even more concerned, knowing that he needed to choose a new leader while he was away. However, choosing between them seemed like a bad idea. After some thought, he declared that the one he trusted most among his band was Slappy. The slime would be their new leader, leaving the girls baffled. He literally gave the promotion to a sentient Jello Cup. Urshiva reluctantly yielded, saying she had no choice if Slappy was the chosen leader. Nyafu also agreed, stating that Slappy was the most suitable. Meanwhile, Slappy made unintelligible noises as if asking them to take good care of him. Idol felt relieved as the matter had been quickly settled. Golin congratulates Slappy, saying everything will be fine now that he's in charge. Slappy blinks in confusion, surprised by how much trust she places in him. Urshiva teases Golin, calling her unexpectedly mature, while Nyafu accuses her of lacking ambition for not joining the leadership contest. But Golin simply says she's not fit to be a substitute leader. Urshiva questions if she's being too humble, warning that such thinking might make it hard to stand beside their master. Golin just smiles and says she's fine with that. Idol agrees, then summons the external equipment type Eagle. In an instant, a sleek aircraft descends in front of them. Among all the reinforced gear Golin can access, this one is tailored for ground support and rapid aerial movement. With it, a journey that would take days on foot could be finished in a single day. Urshiva immediately steps forward, calling it an iron bird and claiming she'll be the one to pilot it. But Golin calmly explains that only she can control the craft. Its system and power core are synced with her directly. Idol agrees, adding that since Golin has a human form, she's the best choice to travel with him. The others would stay behind and follow Slappy's lead. Urshiva's frustration boils over. She can't lead. She can't go. She's stuck. Nyafa sighs and gives up, saying they'll just have to earn everyone's trust the hard way. With that, Idol informs them he'll be leaving and should return by nightfall. Just then, Golin instructs him to wrap himself around her. He freezes, confused, but she clarifies that unless he holds on properly, she won't be able to carry him safely. Panicked, Idol tries to negotiate, asking if he can just grab her back or her legs instead. Golin points out that grabbing her back or legs would be risky. She plans to fly at full speed, so for safety, he needs to be securely attached. The most stable option is for him to sit in the cockpit area, with her. Idol protests, saying it's too narrow. If even one person barely fits, squeezing in another would make it unbearably cramped. But Golin insists the aircraft was designed that way, and there's no changing it. 2 people can fit. Barely. Before Idol can argue again, Golin grabs him and pulls him inside. The cockpit seals shut, and just like that, the aircraft lifts off the ground. Idol blinks, suddenly realizing he's lying face first against Golin's soft chest as they rocket into the sky. As the wind rushes past them, he wonders if this is really how they're going to travel, but Golin calmly informs him that they've already departed. Down below, Nyafa notices the empty space beside her. Urshiva is missing. For a second, she's concerned, but then shrugs it off. She figures they'll be fine. Though in Idol's case, fine might be an understatement. Eventually, they reach their destination. Idol stumbles out of the aircraft, dizzy and flushed, convinced he almost died. But he has to admit, the ride was dangerously soft and smelled amazing. Golin announces their arrival and asks if he enjoyed the flight. Idol says he did, down to the marrow of his bones. They park the aircraft outside the village to avoid panic. Golin's outfit is too revealing, and they don't want to cause a scene. That's also why Idol suggests she wear a mantle, something more fitting for public eyes. Clothing reflects social norms, and Golin's appearance might attract too much attention. For now, the mantle will do. They can shop for proper clothes later. Golin is surprised. The mantle is one of Idol's personal items. He tries to brush off the gesture, saying he just wanted to see how it looks on her. As he drapes it over her shoulders, Golin thanks him and promises to find the cutest clothes for him in return. Idol stands there, baffled. That's not what he meant. Soon after, they enter the village. Golin observes the surroundings and notes how primitive the place looks. It's clear this civilization lags far behind the one that created her. Trying to change the topic, she suggests they shop for clothes together. She thinks he might enjoy that. Idol agrees but reminds her they also need furniture. The only problem, he's broke. Golin asks if he was once a financier, reasoning that even if he defaulted, no debt collector would dare chase him into the depths of the Great Tree Sea. Idol stares at her, completely thrown off, and shuts that idea down immediately. After that, they head straight to the Adventurers Guild. As they arrive, Idol asks Golin to buy some materials while he handles other matters. The moment they step inside, the old man who once looked after Idol at the capital branch spots them and calls out his name. Idol freezes. He hadn't expected to see this man here. He thought the old man was still working in the royal capital, but the man begins yelling across the hall, explaining he transferred to this branch out of sheer concern. It's been 4 months since Idol vanished. Idol is stunned. It had only felt like weeks to him. The old man says his disappearance was classified as a disaster, and a search quest had even been posted on the guild board. Idol checks the board himself, and sure enough, there it is, a quest offering 4,000 G to anyone who could find him. He's even more shocked when he realizes the quest was issued by the Jiraha family. But the old man clarifies, this has nothing to do with the family. The quest went up 3 months ago, and not a single clue ever came in. Most assumed he was already dead. Touched that someone still cared, Idol tries to ease the man's worries. Golin, meanwhile, casually asks if she can take the quest and claim the reward immediately. Idol shoots her down, saying it wouldn't be fair. He asks the old man to cancel the quest instead. The old man blinks in confusion. There aren't exactly any goods worth trading for in this remote area. Idol smirks and proves him wrong by summoning a large box from thin air. The old man is shocked. From inside, Idol pulls out a kill club, a massive weapon made from a security-type monster with a shell so tough, most novice adventurers couldn't even scratch it. These are prized crafting materials. and Idol casually reveals he has 57 of them. In addition, he's got 107 armor fish and several chunks of processed adamantite ore. The old man is completely overwhelmed. Materials like these coming from the Great Tree Sea are unheard of. He then hesitantly asks if Idol had ventured deeper than what guild regulations allow. Idol's expression turns cautious. He asks if there's a penalty for that. The old man says no, but reaching those unexplored zones usually means death. Survivors are often swarmed with questions. Idol shrugs and says to keep quiet about it. The old man sighs. Idol hasn't changed at all. He marvels at the quality of the materials and finally asks how all of it fits into one small box. Idol explains that it's a storage item that distorts space. Even more curious, the old man asks if Idol is truly summoning things that don't exist in this world. Idol confirms it. The Great Tree Sea is the perfect environment for his research into bond summoning. The old man looks relieved. Idol has finally found something he wants to pursue for himself. He tells him to keep going. Nothing's holding him back anymore. With that, he begins the appraisal and promises to offer the highest price possible to celebrate their reunion. Idol decides to kill time at a nearby clothing store. He tells Golene to pick whatever she wants. Money's no issue. She immediately picks out a revealing dress, saying it's for him. Idol stares in disbelief. She moves on to lingerie, and now he's mortified. Eventually, she settles on a maid outfit. Idol asks why, and she replies that it's standard servant attire. He finally gives in. It's modest enough, at least. He tells her to set it aside for later. When they return to the guild, something unexpected happens. The old man greets them with a deep bow and apologizes. He says the guild can no longer accept Idol's summoned materials. Confused, Idol asks why. The old man explains that in the middle of the appraisal, guild staff noticed the materials weren't matching the known ecosystem of the Great Tree Sea. There's no record of these items ever being retrieved from that area. That alone raised suspicion. It didn't help that the sheer quantity was unnatural, and to make things worse, the matter has already been escalated to the branch manager. Idol's eyes narrow. This is no longer just an issue with one old man behind the counter. The entire guild is now watching. The guild refuses to process the materials unless they meet the person who brought them in. The old man panics, unsure of what to do. Idol thinks about returning to the forest, but that would mean abandoning the plan to buy furniture and clothes. In the end, he agrees to meet the guild manager, but only if they guarantee the materials will be processed after the meeting. They're led to Ogians, the branch manager of the Adventurers Guild in Batris. Ogians explains that more than 90% of the Great Tree Sea remains unexplored. Adventurers risk their lives to chart it, and this guild is responsible for keeping records of everything discovered near the frontier. But the items Idol brought in don't match anything currently listed. The Kill Club doesn't appear in any record of monsters found in the forest. Its hard shell belongs to the level of Biran quests, and even then, only rarely. The other materials, adamantite ore and airy glass, are both top grade, previously unconfirmed in this region. Ogians asks if Idol really collected all of them from within the Great Tree Sea. If that's true, the guild's entire registry will need to be revised. But then Ogians admits something else. He believes Idol is lying. That explanation sounds more likely to him. Golene stands immediately. She declares that her master would never lie and accuses Ogians of being unable to recognize true ability. She insists the materials all came from the forest. Idol steps in and tells her to calm down. Ogians apologizes and explains that doubt is natural when the results go this far beyond standard reports. Once again, he asks how far Idol went into the forest. Idol wants to know if there's going to be punishment for that. Ogians tells him no. Every adventurer decides how deep to go. However, returning alive from an unexplored zone isn't something the guild can ignore. That's the reason he was summoned. Ogians needs confirmation. If Idol came back alive from one of the deepest parts of the forest, then his abilities exceed all expectations. By that measure, he should be at least A rank. Possibly even S rank. But the guild's database still lists him as E rank. That mismatch doesn't make sense. The old man steps forward, offering to explain. Idol had been a student at the Royal Knight School. Having a student working part-time as an adventurer would have damaged the school's image. To avoid complications, Idol stayed at E rank on purpose. Ogians understands, but points out the obvious. Idol has been gone for months. That means he abandoned his studies. The old man is caught off guard. Suddenly, Idol speaks up. He admits that he was expelled. The school said he lacked talent and motivation. Ogians is stunned. Someone capable of surviving the most dangerous part of the Great Tree Sea had been rejected for not meeting basic standards. Idol isn't affected by it. Since he was expelled, there was nothing tying him down. That's why he entered the forest. He made the choice to live on his own terms. At that moment, Ogians makes his stance clear. Someone with Idol's ability can't be left at E rank to do as he pleases. He must take the promotion exam immediately. Ogians wants his rank to match his true capabilities. Idol is caught off guard. He only came to exchange materials, not sign up for a test. But Ogians reassures him that it's nothing grand. The exam will finish within the day. They'll factor in his past achievements as well. Idol isn't thrilled. He doesn't want attention. Rising to a high rank feels like asking for trouble. But then Golin encourages him. He doesn't understand why she's pushing it so hard, but she explains that recognition is a good thing. His strength should be acknowledged, and respect will follow. The old man suddenly gets emotional. He says Idol had always been like a wallflower, and now people would finally see him for who he is. Tears fill his eyes, but Idol still doesn't get why he's crying. Idol asks if there's any other way, but Ogians doesn't budge. If he refuses the exam, the guild will assume he has no intention of working as a proper adventurer. In that case, they'll return the materials and end the deal entirely. Left with no other choice, Idol agrees. It's better to just get it over with. Golin checks again if he's serious about taking the exam. If so, she says climbing ranks will be easy. The old man adds that even if Idol isn't eager, a higher rank comes with benefits. Idol looks confused. The old man explains. A high rank means access to solo quests, the right to lead a clan, and most importantly, advance funding. If Idol takes high difficulty quests, the guild will supply money up front to support the mission. That part catches Idol's attention. The idea of earning serious cash finally sparks some motivation. Later, Idol arrives at the examination grounds with the other candidates. Ogian steps forward and explains the rules. They'll begin mock battles, one-on-one matchups. As an E-class adventurer, Idol is matched against someone from D-class, one rank above. But Ogians adds something more. He's hoping Idol reaches at least B-class. Then, glancing his way, he reveals that an A-class opponent has been brought in just for him. Idol tenses up. He doesn't do well with this kind of pressure. The money sounds good, but drawing too much attention could ruin the quiet life he built. He needs to aim for the right rank and make sure he doesn't lose. Just then, Golin speaks up, saying she'll do her best to support her master. She wants to help in the fight, explaining that as a combat asset created by Idol's own technique, her role is to protect him. But Idol turns her down. If people saw the golem, it would cause a stir. He wants to keep bond summoning hidden for now, and more importantly, he wants to keep Golin's true identity under wraps. With that, Ogians announces the start of the test. One of the adventurers steps forward, facing Idol. He's heard the rumors that Idol came from unexplored territory. The adventurer steps forward, expecting someone strong-looking. But when he sees Idol's size, he's caught off guard. Idol gives an awkward smile. People must have spread his info around. No matter how much he eats, his body just doesn't gain size. The adventurer says this is still a decent quest. If he wins, he gets a reward. But he warns Idol that he won't go easy on him. Idol plays it cool, casually wondering if he'd even get a single coin if he lost. The adventurer takes offense. Winning this match means promotion and recognition, and he refuses to let that slip away. Without warning, he lunges, shouting for Idol to die. Idol dodges effortlessly and closes the distance. In a flash, he pins the adventurer and presses a knife to his throat. The adventurer freezes, completely shaken. He didn't even see where the blade came from. Idol grins. A hidden trick is still a weapon. The adventurer surrenders immediately. Idol praises him and lowers the knife. He looks at it with a smirk, another tool summoned through magic. From the outside, it must have looked like the blade appeared from thin air. The match is declared. Idol wins and is promoted from E rank to D rank. His next opponent is a C rank ranger. Now slightly more confident, Idol realizes this isn't an ideal match for him. He's built to find openings, not brute force through direct fights. Neither of them has a finishing move, so the battle drags on. When the ranger loses focus for just a second, Idol takes advantage and lands a clean hit. Once again, he wins. The exam ends. The crowd seems bored. Some call it a cheap win. Others doubt the stories about the unexplored zone. They don't buy the rumors. Idol passes by, hearing every word. One adventurer says that if he really came from that kind of place, his power should have shown it. A speed-based C rank like that shouldn't be enough. Idol stays quiet and lets them talk. Golin walks over and hands him a towel. She congratulates him for finishing the test. As he wipes the sweat from his face, Idol thinks back to the forest. He survived because of bond summoning. Even reaching C rank took everything he had. A B rank promotion feels impossible. Then Golin asks if he's right-handed. She apologizes if she's wrong but points out something odd. He's been using his left hand for everything, fighting, eating. It doesn't seem natural. Idol explains. He was originally right-handed but injured his dominant arm in a small accident. The wound healed, but his grip never fully returned. He can still hold light objects, but there's no strength behind it. His left hand simply took over. Golin watches him closely. She says he looks uncomfortable when fighting. Idol is surprised. She explains that combat uses the entire body, and when one part is impaired, the whole balance is thrown off. Then she says it directly. His movements aren't complete. That hits hard. Idol doesn't deny it. This is all he has left. But Golin speaks again. She tells him to use bond summoning, this time, through his connection with her. He's confused. Using a summon here would draw attention. But Golin doesn't budge. She waits, expression still, refusing to take no for an answer. Idol finally gives in and honors her request. A screen appears, confirming access to auxiliary drive gauntlets. Golin tells him to summon and equip them. Idol does as she says. A gauntlet instantly forms around his right arm. At first, it just feels like a tight glove. Then it begins to move. On its own. Idol's right hand, once dismissed by doctors as beyond recovery, finally moves again. With the gauntlet equipped, his fingers regain full motion. Golin explains that the auxiliary drive gauntlet responds to neural signals by detecting electrical currents and activating artificial muscle fibers. The mechanism allows it to function just like a real hand. Idol doesn't understand the technical jargon. Golin simplifies it. Even in ancient times, people suffered from nerve damage. These gauntlets were made to help them recover, tools for support and rehabilitation. She's relieved the summoning worked. Idol looks at the gauntlet in awe, admiring its precision and power. Before he can say anything, a guild messenger interrupts. The next match is ready. Idol is called to the arena. As he grips a sword with his right hand for the first time in years, it feels like the weapon is molding into his palm, refusing to let go. His next opponent is Raisder, a B-rank adventurer. As Raisder steps forward, he takes the upper stance of the Incensa style. Whispers spread across the crowd. Raisder is known for leaving no openings. If a C-rank ranger had already given Idol trouble, someone at Raisder's level should be far too much. Idol hears the comments, but he doesn't react. He steadies his breathing. Focus sharpens. His mind stays calm, undisturbed. As Raisder launches a precise strike, Idol senses the killing intent and responds instantly. His counter lands clean. Raisder's sword flies into the air. He stares in disbelief, unable to process how Idol landed the Exester-style tendril strike so cleanly. Raisder lets out a sigh and concedes defeat. The crowd bursts into applause. Idol's victory is clear. As the next challenger enters, Idol quietly acknowledges it. At this point, his B-rank promotion is nearly locked in. But part of him still wonders if what he's done so far is enough. Then comes his final opponent, Charlotte, an A-ranked adventurer. She reminds him that one more battle remains. If he defeats her, he will be promoted straight to A-rank. Since he's come this far, she tells him not to stop now. Idol reflects. Longing for what's already lost never leads anywhere. Every adventurer knows that. But Charlotte pushes back. She says that without taking the next step, no one ever reaches what they truly want. Charlotte begins her assault. She activates dual magic, floating and fire spells cast together. A massive fireball forms in the sky. Idol freezes. He recognizes the pattern. This is a warrior-killer setup. Warriors like him are helpless at range. Without a way to strike back, he's trapped. Charlotte confirms it. She read his combat style and prepared this exact counter. She keeps him at bay while raining fire from above. But maintaining two types of high-level magic should drain most mages quickly. Charlotte shows no sign of stopping. She's already been flying for a while and continues casting with full force. This is what it means to stand at the A-rank level. Idol realizes dodging isn't enough anymore. He can barely do that. Charlotte floats high, pressuring him to fight back or be crushed. Another fireball flies. The heat forces him to drop his sword. It burns too hot to hold. Charlotte watches with a smirk. A swordsman without his blade is no threat to her. She's sure Idol lacks the skill to reach A-rank and figures there's no point using this fight to push herself. But for Idol, this isn't the first setback. And this time, the bond summoning technique answers his will. Drawing on his connection with Golin and Urshiva, he activates a compound bond. A sword materializes, the Moraine Maru. Charlotte is caught off guard. She demands to know where he was hiding a weapon like that. But she doesn't back down. A new sword means nothing if she stays in the air. Idol doesn't give her the chance. He channels fire through the blade. Charlotte laughs, thinking he's repeating his mistake. The heat will just burn his hand again. But this time, the gauntlet holds firm. He grips the flaming weapon without flinching. Charlotte realizes too late, he's nullified the magic. That fire won't hurt him anymore. Now Idol has a strategy. One designed specifically to counter airborne mages. He summons a knife using his bond with Goblin and hurls it toward her. Charlotte barely dodges and shouts in confusion, asking what kind of knife he's using. Idol calmly reveals it's a weapon made for range combat, a perfect answer for targets out of reach. He taunts her. If this was her unbeatable strategy, she clearly hadn't thought it through. Charlotte falters. She remembers how Idol fought like a typical swordsman just moments ago. Now he's attacking from range. It doesn't add up. Idol calls her tactics childish and short-sighted. Ever since being expelled from night school, he's had to figure things out alone. Bond summoning, like everything else, was built through pure trial and error. And now, summoning a single knife barely drains him. With nearly unlimited magic reserves, he starts throwing blades one after another without pause. Charlotte can't keep up. The barrage breaks her rhythm. Eventually, she stumbles midair, loses balance, and falls to the ground. Before she can recover, Idol points his sword at her. She's within range now. With no other option, Charlotte admits defeat. The crowd explodes in cheers. Idol stands frozen, stunned by the noise. The old man rushes over, praising him for holding his own and saying he always believed in him. Ogians also steps forward to offer his congratulations. Idol has proven himself. He's officially qualified to be an A-rank adventurer. But the moment doesn't last. Ogians casually reminds him, only one rank remains above. S rank. Idol looks horrified, asking if he's seriously expected to keep fighting. Fortunately, Ogians explains that no S-class adventurers are currently available. Instead, the guild will submit his promotion request directly to headquarters. Once they respond, the challenge for S rank will begin. Idol is already overwhelmed. Reaching A rank has made him a target. Going even higher would only draw more attention. For now, he brushes the thought aside and tells Ogians to begin the material exchange. Meanwhile, deep within the Great Tree Sea, a shadow stirs. Exer begins to move. Hidden away in the most secret corners of the forest, he sets his sights on Idol. He remembers a moment from 3 years ago, just before graduation. Idol, on his knees before the prince, a scene Exer never expected to witness. During the night school's annual tournament, Idol reached the finals once again, only to finish as runner-up for the second year in a row. His opponent was the fourth prince, Mashuhara, who claimed victory and secured his reign as part of the Golden 13th Generation, legends among prodigies. The match had begun with intensity. Idol poured everything into his sword. For the first time, he forced the composed prince to fall back. Mashuhara was amused. Meanwhile, Exer watches the fight from the sidelines, completely stunned. The prince had dodged Idol's best attack like it was nothing. Then, without missing a beat, he countered with a quick combo. Idol tried to block, but the prince slipped through his guard and slashed the back of his right hand. The hit lands clean. Idol freezes for a second, the pain catches him off guard. Exer immediately notices something's different. That one hit isn't just about damage. There's weight behind it, pressure. Idol stumbles, wondering if he's about to lose again. But then, out of nowhere, his father's face flashes in his mind. Cold and disappointed. The man had always been clear failure would be tolerated twice. No more than that. Idol bites down and forces himself to keep going. He charges back in, but the difference in skill is too much. The prince is on another level. With a single move, he knocks Idol to the ground. All he can hear in his head is his father's voice telling him to win, to make the Jiraiya family proud. But even as he drops to one knee, Idol glares at the prince. He's not done. He's not giving up. Exer watches him, almost wanting him to stop. But Idol just keeps looking up with that same stubborn look in his eyes. The prince smirks and tells him it's already over. Idol knows he's right. He thinks back on everything he did to meet his father's expectations. He had pushed himself to the limit, but it wasn't enough. The prince's last few attacks left his right hand in even worse shape. The injury's permanent now. He can't grip a sword with that hand anymore. As expected, his father doesn't care. He calls the loss disgraceful and cuts Idol off from the family without hesitation. From that day on, everything changes. It's not just his hand that's broken, something inside him gives out too. He stops training, stops trying, and just drifts through the days like a shell. The dream of becoming a knight fades away, and eventually, he leaves home for good. Looking back, maybe if he had won that match, he could have stood in Ziku's way. But maybe that was never possible. Guys like Ziku, so-called geniuses, probably don't even understand what it means to care about anyone else. After cutting ties with his father, Exer starts searching for Idol. He hears that Idol entered the Idira region near the Great Tree Sea, so while handling his regular night duties, he also begins searching on the side. Eventually, he gets reassigned to the frontier town of Betrinus, which is close to the forest. Back then, he had asked his father where Idol had gone but got no answer. If it were Ziku, he probably would have solved it instantly, but Exer isn't a genius. Day after day, he chases after a younger brother who had no one left and was clearly at his limit. Their father's pressure never stopped. Looking back, Exer thinks he should have protected him better from the start. One night, Exer is drinking alone at a local pub when the old man who used to look after Idol walks up to him. He jokes about how a guy his age shouldn't be drinking like this, then serves him a meal and asks how he's been. He's surprised that a knight from the central region ended up in a remote place like this and wants to know why. Exer admits he transferred here and jokes that even their father wouldn't bother coming this far. He remembers the expression on his father's face when he told him he was cutting ties. It was the look of a man watching someone throw away their future. The old man reacts like it's a tragedy, saying that for a new knight, this kind of move is basically career ending. There's almost no chance of rising through the ranks now, but Exer doesn't seem bothered. He says it with pride and makes it clear that he has his own path to follow. The old man suddenly bursts out laughing, which catches Exer off guard. He says they're actually really similar, except his own family chose to support him. He doesn't hold back either. Then Exer casually mentions that he's actually looking for his younger brother. The old man asks how old the boy is, and Exer says 15, with dark hair. The old man stops for a moment, surprised. He says he's also been looking for someone just like that. Then, almost at the same time, they both say the same name, Idol. The old man freezes, asking if he really knows him. Exer says yes. He's not just someone he's looking for. That boy is his little brother. A few months later, Exer meets up with the old man again. The old man asks if there's been any progress, but Exer says nothing has changed. The old man admits it's the same on his end, no new information. He apologizes, but Exer tells him not to worry. If they hadn't met, he never would have thought to look into the adventurer world in the first place. That's when he finds out that Idol is kind of a big deal. Exer hears from adventurers who've crossed paths with him. One says he'd be dead if Idol hadn't helped. Another says he moves like a perfect teammate in battle. Someone else claims he's the standard for frontline combat. Others say he can handle almost any situation, that his biggest strength is being able to do everything. And yet Idol himself supposedly says he's just average, not great at anything in particular. Some call him an all-rounder. Not an all-round genius, but an all-round normal guy. Exer realizes something. The same kid who was treated like a failure in the night world is now respected in the adventurer community. That hits him. He admits it's ironic that he didn't even know what his brother had accomplished. Then the old man drops something new. He's kept it to himself until now. It's been months since Idol entered the Great Tree Sea. And that place isn't just dangerous, it's one of the deadliest areas in the entire world. But Exer doesn't back down. He says he's going to find his brother. He wants to look him in the eye and tell him he's not alone. That there are still people who care about him. With that, Exer turns his attention toward the Great Tree Sea. Meanwhile, Idol returns to the forest outskirts, where the girls rush out to greet him. Urshiva begs for a back scratch, and Nyafu wants him to scratch the base of her tail. She's completely unfiltered at this point. As they crowd around him, Golin quickly steps in and puts a stop to it. She orders them to back off, reminding everyone that their master just got back and needs rest. Nyafu then notices Golin's new outfit and asks what it's about. Golin smirks and says it's a symbol of loyalty. As a servant, it's her duty to ease her master's fatigue. Then she turns the question on Nyafu, asking if she's jealous of the outfit. Nyafu shrugs it off, saying she doesn't care about clothes. They're stiff and uncomfortable anyway. Golin is a little concerned that Nyafu might be rejecting civilization altogether, but Idol doesn't take it too seriously. He just tells Nyafu he'd appreciate it if she at least wore her clothes. Out of nowhere, Golin turns to Idol and insists they check out the exposition. Before he can say anything, she pulls out a space warping box and starts unloading small furniture, like she's setting up a living room in the middle of nowhere. There's a tablecloth, a cushion, and even an umbrella stand. Idol just stares. He had no idea she brought any of this. Golin excitedly shows off a frog decoration on the umbrella stand, calling it a sophisticated design. Idol has no clue how to respond, so he just gets to work arranging the furniture. But the moment they unpack the table, he realizes it's way too big. It's made for 10 people, and clearly won't fit their current space. Trying not to let it get to him, he moves on and sets up the bed next, only to find that the bed frame and the mattress don't even match in size. Idol blames the whole mess on the promotion exam eating up all his time. Golin just silently judges his terrible measuring skills, while Nyafu mutters that the real problem is Golin buying things they don't even need. Eventually, Idol tells them to put everything away and deal with it tomorrow. The next day, Goblin finishes building a table from scratch that actually fits the dining room. Idol is shocked at how fast she managed it, but she says using the tree-cutting tools was just too much fun. She's even thinking of picking up Sunday carpentry. The table turns out exactly like she imagined. Pleased with the result, she suggests bringing it inside. Idol hesitates, unsure if it'll fit through the door, but Goblin tells him to just stand it upright. He follows her advice, and it slides in perfectly. Goblin tells them to bring the chairs in next. Idol follows her and is immediately stunned. She built chairs too. He asks when she even had the time to make them, clearly caught off guard. But instead of being proud, Goblin looks offended. She snaps that goblins are supposed to be messengers of destruction and slaughter. Building furniture doesn't exactly scream chaos and carnage. Still, Idol tells her she did a solid job. That only makes her more upset. She thinks it makes her look soft. She reminds him of her true nature, but Idol just laughs, wondering if she really believes that kind of thing still matters. Goblin doubles down, saying she handled all the prep work herself. She gathered the materials, did the processing, everything. Idol agrees, pointing out that when dealing with animal materials, the blood has to be drained, and for plant stuff, the moisture needs to be removed. But back then, it was all too much to handle alone, so he asked her for help. Turns out the finished goods were good enough that the guild praised the quality. That helped them earn more gold than expected during the material exchange. Now Goblin finally looks satisfied. She says of course they were praised. She doesn't believe in compromise. Idol smiles but admits he doesn't remember her being that intense. In his mind, he was just doing the work calmly, trying to get everything done right. That's exactly what Goblin says she hated. She wants goblins to be loud, wild, and completely unhinged. She refuses to be outdone by cats and dogs. If they could leave a mark, then so could she. Out of nowhere, Goblin suddenly charges toward Idol. There's a strange glow radiating from her, and Idol is caught completely off guard. He has no idea what she's about to do. Suddenly, Idol stares in shock as he sees a beautiful woman standing before him, smiling. He freezes, unable to process what just happened. Then it clicks. He realizes who she is and asks if she's Goblina. The woman smiles and greets him. Idol is still confused, wondering if this transformation is also an effect of the bond summoning technique. Goblina confirms with a smile, saying that his technique allows for strong bonds to take form, and now asks if he can modify the contract. Even now, they're both stunned, since changing someone's gender is supposed to be impossible. Goblina gently clarifies again, saying she's always been female. Idol nods, saying he had a feeling already. Her name always sounded feminine. Goblina then slowly walks up to him, closing the distance until they're nearly nose to nose. In a soft voice, she asks if he wants to pair up with her. Before he can answer, a loud scream echoes behind them. It's Golin. Idol snaps back to reality. He stumbles to explain that he's just surprised, but the other girls aren't buying it. None of them believe him. To them, Goblina is clearly a new threat, another rival in the competition for Idol's attention. Golin immediately gets an idea. The next morning, she shows up holding a dozen eggs, announcing that she's making breakfast. Idol is surprised and impressed. Golin explains that she already bought all the necessary cooking utensils and got the kitchen ready. She says she's been planning this for a long time and wants him to enjoy a proper, warm, homemade meal. She smiles confidently and says she's going to make it herself. Idol is caught off guard. He didn't know she could cook. Golin simply smiles again and says she's a fully automatic machine designed to handle any situation, and that includes cooking as well. Idol still can't believe it. He's genuinely impressed and now curious to see how the food will turn out. While waiting for the meal, Slappy shows Idol a new painting he decorated, trying to keep him entertained. But Idol starts to get a little impatient. Just then, Golin calls out and announces that the food is finally ready. She walks in with the plates and apologizes for the long wait. She sets the plate down in front of him and says she made an omelet. Idol eagerly gets ready to eat, but Golin stops him, saying the dish isn't finished yet. She pulls out a bottle of ketchup and carefully draws a heart shape on top of the omelet. Idol is caught off guard by the gesture, but Golin smiles and says there's still more. She announces that she's about to cast the ultimate spell, one said to enhance flavor and passed down from ancient civilizations. She forms a heart shape with her hands, chants the spell, and tells him the dish is now complete. She urges him to try it, saying the omelet has absorbed her love and reached its peak form. Before Idol can react, Nyafu and Urshiva show up, excited by the smell of food. Without waiting for permission, they grab forks and start digging into the omelet. Golin panics and tries to stop them, saying she made that dish especially for Idol, but they completely ignore her. Within seconds, the plate is wiped clean. Nyafu and Urshiva give their reviews, casually mentioning that the omelet tasted a bit overcooked. Idol watches the chaos unfold in silence, unable to say anything. Golin starts getting annoyed and tries dragging the others away, but Idol tells her to calm down. He tries to figure out how to handle the situation, but before anything else, he realizes he's still starving. Right on cue, Goblina walks in holding another omelet. She says she made a fresh one herself and even cleaned the kitchen. Idol is impressed and takes a bite. The moment the taste hits his tongue, he freezes. There's something inside the omelet. He chews again and recognizes the flavor. It's crab meat. Excited, he asks about it. Goblina explains that she reused the leftover meat from the king crab they processed earlier. Idol smiles, saying it tastes incredible. Goline starts to panic. She realizes Goblina is stealing all her thunder. She says she can cook too and can prepare something quickly, but even she can see the difference in skill. Goblina's abilities are far beyond her own. Goblina tries to act tough, insisting she's still the most evil goblin who specializes in destruction, not creation. But deep down, she knows her essence as a goblin is fading, though she's keeping that to herself for now. Idol tries to change the mood. He asks Goblina if she can make some soup as well. She nods and says she's working on onion soup. Just then, Slappy arrives holding his own creation. Idol asks what he brought. Slappy shows him a single egg, cracks it open, and reveals a perfectly half-boiled egg. Idol is amazed. He didn't expect this level of precision. He starts to truly appreciate how much the bond summoning technique has made possible. Suddenly, Nyafa bursts into the room with urgent news. She says there's an intruder in their territory. Everyone heads outside, and one of the wolves arrives, dragging a disheveled man through the dirt. The stranger looks like an ordinary human, covered in mud and wearing damaged armor. Idol walks up and asks if he was in some kind of accident. He thanks Nyafa for the report, and kneels down to get a better look. As he removes the stranger's hood, he tells Slappy to help clean him up and pour water using soft pressure. The man's clothes are soaked in mud, and Idol notices the knight's armor underneath. He wonders what someone like that is doing here. Summoning a blade, Idol trims the man's beard to see his face more clearly. As soon as the beard comes off and the man's features are revealed, Idol stares in disbelief. It's Exer. Shocked, Idol stumbles back, wondering why Exer of all people is here. Exer slowly regains consciousness, opens his eyes, and asks where he is. Idol offers him some water. As he drinks, Exer gathers his strength and says someone helped him after he lost his way, but he has no idea who it was. He explains that he came here searching for his younger brother, Idol, who should be somewhere in the Great Tree Sea. As his vision clears and he looks closer at the person beside him, he suddenly realizes it's Idol. Exer immediately starts apologizing. He says he's sorry for not being able to protect him. He explains that their father has now cut ties with him as well, and suggests that they return home together. But Idol smiles and tells him to calm down. He hands him the water again and says they can talk after he eats something. Later that night, inside their home, Idol gives Exer a bowl of soup, saying it'll help with digestion. Then he asks him directly why he came all the way out here. Exer replies that the only reason he came was to find him. Idol is confused, but Exer explains that when he returned home, he learned that the old man had disowned Idol. After hearing that, he was furious. He cut ties with their father too. Exer tells Idol that he had always admired his swordsmanship and his academic efforts. He worked harder than most and still got results. But Idol doesn't agree. Exer insists, saying that their father kept making ridiculous demands even though he never ranked in the top 10 himself when he was a student. Idol freezes. That's something he never knew until now. He screams in shock, finally realizing the truth. Exer says there's no point worrying about that anymore. He also reveals the real reason their father couldn't reach the top was because Prince Mashuda was in the same year, and nobody could beat him. After that, the whole family started drifting away from the old man. Exer cut off all ties, their mother returned to her family's home with their sister, and even Zeke used his position to pressure their father and took over as head of the house. Idol realizes now that Zeke has long surpassed their father, and it's no surprise to hear he became the new family head. Exer says maybe Zeke did it as revenge for how the old man treated Idol. But Idol doesn't think that's the reason. He knows Ziku is always calm, efficient, and logical. He probably just decided it was more efficient to take over the household himself. Idol then shifts the conversation. He asks why Exer came here now of all times. It's Exer's first year as a knight, which is a critical period. Exer says he was assigned to the border guard knights in Betrinus. Idol is shocked, but Exer explains he volunteered for the position. Serving at the castle would have made it harder to search for him. Idol still doesn't understand why Exer would throw away his future just to find someone like him. Exer tells him it's because he's his younger brother. He admits there were many times Idol needed him, but he wasn't there. He confesses that he should have encouraged him after the training match. He says he doesn't even deserve to call himself Idol's older brother. Hearing that, Idol begins to reflect. Back then, he never thought to ask for help. He believed he had to handle everything on his own. He never imagined his family would actually worry about him or come looking. Now he realizes, if he had just left a message, Exer wouldn't have thrown away his promotion just to find him. Exer tells him not to overthink it. He didn't come here to make him feel guilty. He says they should live together and plan for the future. He mentions that they can stay at their mother's house. He smiles and says he just wanted to tell him that they're family. Idol quietly apologizes, saying he had no idea Exer cared so much. He tells him not to worry because he's doing something he truly enjoys now. Exer is surprised and asks if he really means it. Idol explains that it's true. He never wanted to be weak, and since he was expelled and disinherited, this is the path he's chosen. Now he's wondering if he should explain the bond summoning technique to his brother. Just then, Golin rushes in with urgent news. The vampires have launched an attack. Idol immediately gathers his team. As they get ready, he thinks that maybe showing Exer what he's become capable of would be faster than trying to explain it with words. Exer immediately stands up in panic and demands to know who launched the attack. But Idol tells him there's no time to explain and asks him to just watch. He quickly adds that Golin used to be a vampire. She explains that vampires are a type of demon tribe, one that's forbidden from acting under sunlight, but under moonlight, their magical power grows significantly, far beyond that of regular demon tribes. As they walk outside, Idol realizes it's already past midnight. Before he can react, a powerful presence descends. A figure floats above them. It's the vampire lord. Nyafu and Urshiva panic. Idol sees their fear as the vampire introduces himself with pride, calling himself Nikudrian, a noble vampire. He laughs and says he's heard rumors that the golem previously stationed here has disappeared, and even the territory itself seems to have changed. Nyafu and Urshiva try to stand their ground, asking if he's here to fight. But Nikudrian mocks them, asking where the golem is. He explains that golems are ancient and mysterious beings. Their structure holds secrets that even the deepest knowledge of demonkind can't fully grasp. If demons could unlock those secrets, they might even gain powers capable of surpassing the divine tribes. Nikudrian says he was personally ordered by the Demon King to monitor the situation and keep him updated. But now, with the golem missing, he cannot return without an explanation. Laughing, he demands an answer, saying it would be an honor to serve a noble vampire like himself. Idol smirks, thinking this vampire is overconfident and foolish. But suddenly, Nikudrian's hand begins squirting blood. Idol panics at the sight. He realizes that this can't be allowed to continue and thinks that if nothing else, destroying this vampire would be doing the world a favor. Nikudrian prepares to attack. Idol immediately summons his blade, Muramesa, and shields everyone behind him. The vampire stops in midair, stunned that a human just blocked his attack. He demands to know how Idol, a supposedly weak human, possesses such power. Idol smiles and calmly says he can tell the vampire where the golem went. Nikudrian demands to know how someone like him would know that. But Idol turns the tables, saying he'll only give an answer if the vampire answers his question first. He asks what Nikudrian intends to do if he finds the golem. Idol already considers Golin a friend and ally. Knowing she's the golem in question, he's not going to let anything happen to her. The vampire grows impatient and tries to attack again. Idol stops him once more, pressing the same question, asking if he really isn't interested in the golem anymore. Frustrated, Nikudrian snarls and says he'll kill Idol first. He adds that if Idol were a woman, he might have drunk his blood, but a man's blood is foul. He says it's disrespectful for a human male to even talk to him, and now he must die. Idol deflects another attack. He's clearly annoyed by how much the vampire talks. But he quickly realizes the truth. Nikudrian's attacks are powerful. If this keeps up, he won't be able to hold out much longer. That's when Exer suddenly charges in. He yells out to Idol that they should fight together. Idol is shocked, but Exer doesn't wait. He tells him to stand back and leave this to him. Exer says it's his duty to protect his younger sibling. Idol watches him, realizing his brother is too determined to back down now, but he's also just as determined not to let Exer do anything reckless. Without hesitation, Idol summons the golem. It appears instantly in front of them as Golin transforms into her true form. The vampire stares in shock, and Idol mocks him, saying that this is exactly what he was looking for. Golin is furious. She charges at the vampire, declaring that she has no choice but to beat him up for trying to kill her master. As she rushes in, she channels her energy, and suddenly, a powerful beam of light fires straight from the golem's eyes, hitting the vampire head-on. Idol and Exer stare in shock. Idol turns to his brother and explains that this is a golem, a descendant of an ancient civilization that has protected this land for over 2,000 years. He says he summoned it as his ally using his skill, the bond summoning technique. Even now, Idol is still surprised by the golem's new ability. The beam of light is called the Rebel Blast. It's the primary armament installed within the golem's armor. Golin explains that the previous golem armor was too old to use this skill due to age degradation. But now, in this newly summoned golem, the ability works perfectly without any issues. Idol is still processing everything and turns to his brother again, saying that he only planned to show him the bond summoning technique. He never expected any of this to happen. Golin stops Idol and points toward the lingering cloud of dust. She reminds him that vampires possess some of the strongest regenerative powers in the entire demon tribe. As long as there's moonlight, They can restore themselves even from near extinction. Right then, the vampire laughs as his body starts regenerating. He says today is a great day. He's discovered the golem, and now it even has an upgraded form. He suddenly starts blushing, unable to control himself as he stares at the smooth, refined body of the new golem. He's ecstatic just thinking about the possibilities. If they offer this golem to the Demon King, he knows the reward will be immense. Idol grows more irritated by the vampire's attitude, and Gablina agrees that someone like this is incapable of forming any kind of bond. Idol says there's only one solution left. They have to end this quickly. The vampire starts screaming like a spoiled child, throwing a tantrum, but Idol stays calm and asks Slappy to summon a water vortex into the sky. The swirling water begins to block the moonlight. The vampire panics. The protection granted by the moon is fading fast, and he starts to fall into the vortex. Desperate, he claws his way back up and bursts from the water, yelling at Idol and his group, mocking them and demanding to know how they could even dream of defeating an absolute being like him. Idol watches as the vampire blows away the vortex in rage but calmly moves to the next step. He signals Gablina to get ready. She responds instantly, and rushes toward the vampire with her blade drawn. Her attack connects, and she laughs, though slightly disappointed that she can't eat the vampire. The vampire staggers and loses balance, falling straight into the vortex again. Idol and Gablina mock him without holding back. But suddenly, the vampire transforms into a wolf-dragon hybrid. He bursts out of the vortex, furious and foaming with rage, screaming wildly. Just as he prepares to attack, he suddenly freezes and realizes that he can't regenerate anymore. Panic sets in. Golene explains calmly that her golem's laser blast isn't just a weapon. It uses true law, an ability that eliminates all impure principles. The vampire's fate was sealed the moment that attack landed. The wolf dragon begins disintegrating, its body turning to dust. Golene mocks him, saying this is the punishment for mocking her master. Idol summons Muramasa once more and finishes it off with a powerful waterfall slash, wiping out the vampire's last remnants for good.